Hey, how's it going, guys? Mitchell Chill here. Um, and go over academic language. Um, so basically, um, something I wanted to focus on for academic language is vocabulary. Just reading through the resources, vocabulary is the best predictor of academic achievement. Um, and then academic language is language that is used by teachers and students for the purpose of acquiring new knowledge and skills. And that was from Chamoy and O'Malley on one of the resources that was provided from Echeverria. So basically, there was one thing that was highlighted of what not to do as a teacher, and I think that was really good to be able to see, like, hey, this is not what you should be doing. And in reading it, come to find out, I was like, wait, that's what they told us to do all the time. Like, what does this word mean based on, the sentence and the surrounding words? But anyways, so basically looking up words in the dictionary, um, using context to figure out word meanings and um, extemporaneous vocabulary teaching. So those are the three things that, as a teacher, like you do want to do them, but you want to make sure you're planning and it's more like supplemental and supporting, but that's like not how you want to teach your class. Like everyone pull out your dictionary and look up the word. Um, they get stuck. You don't want to do that. So students struggle with deriving meaning from definitions because the dictionaries are very technical. So even the definition, there may be words that they don't actually understand themselves. Um, Again, with trying to figure out, like I was saying, in my experience, meaning of word from context, it can be extremely difficult. And this is particularly the case for ELL students. It ends up being a guessing game for them, um, or it can for anyone. I can remember, I think this is what it is. And then teachers need to prepare and plan um, for the vocabulary, so they consider the entire class, and this is where they can make connections, right, on some words, and um, it has more meaning if the teacher is prepared certain words and how they're tying it to their demographics in their class. Um, so something else to focus on is participation, discussion, accessibility, and strategies. And by participation, so basically they need to know the language so they can participate in wider mathematics community, right? You want them to be able to talk in terms of math. Um, and then discussion. So through discussions, we learned that students retain and understand so much. However, again, just going back to, they need to be able to find the meaning of words that are being used um, for them to be able to follow along in the discussion. I mean, it's not going to mean anything to them, and they won't be able to participate if they don't understand the vocabulary. Um, so again, and more specifically, academic language, right? And then I'll touch on that a little bit more. Um, Accessibility, again, so students, if you're giving them tasks for them to be able to comprehend and get this conceptual understanding and reasoning of a mathematical concept, yet they don't understand it, whether it's a word problem or just the directions and instructions, they're the task you're giving them is not accessible, and it's it'd be so again, you have to plan and strategize. Um, the teachers need to implement strategies that actively have students participating in discussion. And again, for that, it ties all back to vocabulary and academic language. Um, so an example that I had here is just like just to get an idea of what academic language is, and kind of separate a little bit from general vocabulary and then that tier one, tier two, and tier three. So, for example, mathematics in a financial math class, or finance class, say like senior students, whatever. This could be like a Common Core standard, um, right? And how we would apply academic language. Um, so, let's see, sorry. So a student might not recognize many of the words that you see here on the right-hand side. Um, and then let's say for that lesson, I brought in a brochure from a bank, and they're talking about investing and how you can invest and grow your money, and then potentially probably use it to retire, right? Which is something that students might not be thinking about, but it'd be good to know. Maybe even you know take it back home and talk to their parents about it. But basically, say they're reading the brochure and they're looking at words and like, oh man, I don't know what principal means in this context, right? Because they can quickly realize that they don't mean a staff administrator, right? A principal like that. They're talking about something else. We're talking about math. And again, that would be like a perfect example of academic language. And then just exponential, right? Something that you're going to be using again when you're discussing and participating to use that language and knowing exactly what that means. What does exponential growth mean, right? Um, so they need to understand that. So what each individual part of the function means, right? Um, so in a word problem, these quantities or values are going to be represented in words, and a student needs to be able to identify um, in order to form a solution. And they'll have a formula, and they need to understand when they're talking about principle, what does that mean? Where does it go? How do I use it? Um, so, yeah, this is just my example, my video for academic language.